I'll be talking about today, developer relations in AI product sources. Why this topic to be precise? So, for 2+ years now, I've been working as an AI DevRel consultant. Yeah, sorry. An AI DevRel consultant for two MLOps companies in the world, top 2 startup, that was listed among CB Insights, like that's the last 2 years, among the top 50 to top 100 startup, right? Which is Dagzob and DVC, known for iterative AI, right? So I've worked with the lead developer relations lead, which is Nair for Dagzob, and also the community manager, which is Jenny De Figueiredo for ex-community manager for iterative AI, right? Yeah, and I'm also an advisory board member for Dev Network, right? With other professionals in the developer relations space. And also, I'm just talking about my community portfolio. There are a lot, right? And also an AWS community builder, machine learning, like AWS community builder in machine learning. So what that is precisely, I'll be giving a talk later, soon, that's early next year, on like a workshop on an AWS wrapper, similar to Great Expectation and Deep Checks. Yeah, so that's my community portfolio. So this is me in summary. I'm also the co-founder of Data Community Africa, alongside a lot of amazing people, and MLOps Community Lagos lead. Yeah, so my friend at the moment, Sam Ayo, is also giving a talk in another stage, which is also from the MLOps community. I'm happy to see him here. So that's my Twitter handle and my LinkedIn profile, Give to Ojeabulu. So if you click on this image, I shared a link to my slide on Twitter. If you search for my Twitter handle, that was the last tweet I shared. If you clicked on this image, right, you see a lot about me, my story and everything. Yeah. So for today, we'll be talking about DevRel intro. What is DevRel? Types of developer advocate. We will also be talking about the importance of DevRel. Why is it essential for AI product success? I'll be talking about the case studies where I'll be dwelling on. I feel like it's a technical part and I'll be explaining a lot of things, right? So we'll be talking about the 3 practical case study on an API company, open source company, and a computer vision company. And we'll also be talking about DevRel KPIs, that's key metrics for assessing DevRel product success in AI. So outside DevRel is involved in like giving talks, writing tutorials, writing books and all. So there's also the KPI part where like you measure almost every activity, I'll say quality activities that you are doing, from giving talks to doing a Twitter post and just checking what works, right, with data analysis. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. We'll also be talking about DevRel ROI and business objective, tools, techniques aligning DevRel metrics with business objective. And we have question and answers. Yeah. So the question comes now, which is the first thing we have to address here now, that what is developer relations? Yeah, so developer relations is not the title of maybe a role precisely. It's a group of developer advocates, technical community managers, documentation writers, and so on, that they are just making developers to do their best work. That's the definition by Mary, right? So DevRel is a group of dev advocates, tech community managers, documentation writers, and more, who all exist to empower developers to do their best work. Yeah. So I'll go through all these. So these are different variations of several developer relations professionals, right? So we have the developer advocates, we have the developer community manager, we have the technical writer, we have the DevRel manager, which manages the whole team, this whole team. We have the developer programs manager and the developer experience manager. So all this set of people makes up the developer relations team, and even more. There's even some teams like that of Weaviate. Weaviate is an ML company focused on vector database that has like an event manager, right? So the role is extended depending on what they want at the time. Yeah. So what's the day-to-day in the life of a DevRel professional, right? Like, so these pinpoints from the coding contribution to blog posts, workshop and user feedback, crafting ML memes and organizing events was gotten from Hugging Face precisely. So 2 years ago, I think, is it 2 years or 3 years? So I got reached out by Hugging Face, though I didn't get the job, but that's a big win for me. That time I was not even experienced about anything developer relations. Yeah, so Hugging Face is like a big company, exactly, in the ML space, precisely pushing open source AI. The likes of Said, for instance, I built several projects and pushed it on Hugging Face up. So one of the things, this is what I saw on the job description precisely. I was reached out by Mev from Hugging Face. So they be like, on Monday, you are coding and contributing to open source. On Tuesday, you're handling a workshop and giving user feedback. On Wednesday, you are writing a blog post. On Thursday and Friday, you are crafting ML memes and organizing events. So this is like the summary of what their job description looks like. So let me give you an extensive overview of what DevRel activities is involved in. Okay. Yeah. So these are several activities like that covers DevRel, right? You see, from writing sample code and creating SDKs to developing blogs to settling goals, tracking metrics like developer engagement, adoption rate, community growth, and adjusting outreach strategies, which I was talking about measuring KPIs, and working with ecosystem partners, cloud providers, to create integrations or developer programs to all of the things here, right? Presenting as conferences and organizing hackathons, right, and meetups. Yeah. So DevRel teams, if you notice, I'm like running through all of this because I want to focus on the case study. So DevRel teams and functions, right? So this is a diagrammatic overview of what, though I didn't cover all functions, right? Because there are a lot of functions. The functions in the previous slide, this is a diagrammatic overview of what like different set of person cover. So let me explain. In a typical DevRel team, we have a developer advocate, technical writer, community manager, developer experience engineer, which is why I put DX, right? And for some, especially in the AI space, they do have ML and AI product engineer precisely, also in the team. Why some have like ML solutions engineer, that sales that work directly with the team. So you see what's the name? I don't want to go to mathematics, but for example, when you see writing and speaking, for instance, we can say for developer advocates, that's a developer advocate doing an intersect of writing and speaking and also getting user feedback. Because a lot of all these activities here are like intertwined in terms of sometimes as a technical writer, you are expected to write a tutorials that is end-to-end, right? Or write something that maybe, which integration will I give? The last one we worked on was, there's YOLO. How many of you know YOLO? Yeah, so YOLO is by this company, Ultralytics. So the last one we worked on was like a documentation on an integration with YOLO NAS, right? So my point is, as much as you're a technical writer, you can be expected in some cases, because even when you write articles, you can be expected in some cases to get like user feedback, because you can get feedback from these articles. So all these basically are intertwined with each other. So some are union of some and some are intersect of some. I would have put it in the slide, right? That's N and U. So we have the writing and speaking, we have organizing events, which the community manager is focused on, and user feedback. And we have the integration and building live demos. So before I proceed to the extensive version of this session, these are some amazing AI DevRel friends and what they do. All of them gave me the permission to use their pictures. Yeah. So this is Maria. Maria actually was the first person that made me know about, I will not say know about developer relations, that reached out to me as regards my profile is fit for maybe a developer relations engineer or something. When Maria was at DVC, she interviewed me one time. She's currently the staff developer advocate at Unstructured IO. She was working before, like, for their documentation and technical writing for Hugging Face. Yeah, so what Maria does, basically, is our current company, Unstructured IO, is focused on RAG, retrieval augmented like generation, right? That's what our company is focused on. So what's like the last, one of the last projects I saw Maria worked on was writing a collaborative tutorial on a project with a developer advocate also at MongoDB. So if you notice, that's like writing articles. Like this is one of, like, Maria has over like 16 years experience in developer relations precisely. So from product management to software engineering to machine learning and developer advocacy and technical writing itself. Yeah, so this is Aprit Sauta, right? He works at Voxel 51. Voxel 51 is a computer vision company. Yeah, so Aprit is more focused on, he's a developer advocate. He called himself a machine learning hacker, a developer advocate more focused on videos from podcasts and like articles and so on. Yeah, so we have, okay, it's right here. So we have Tony Kimpemboy. He's originally from Kenya, currently a US citizen. He's currently the senior developer advocate for Crew AI. Crew AI, for instance, is an AI agent company, right? So, like, shout out to Tony. And we have Jenny, that's my best friend, right here. So we have Jenny, she's an ex-community manager for iterative AI. So I tend to know what Jenny does because we work together. So part of the thing Jenny does is organizing like events in terms of trying to get feedback and mentions. There's what we call mentions. Mentions.com is a developer, is a listening tool that developer advocates use to get feedback for their products from different sources. So you can get different data points. So what it does basically is like a low-code platform that web scrape like things from the internet and get different data points which you can analyze. So that's what Mentions is known for. Yeah. So we also have Jamila, right? Jamila is a staff developer advocate at Ivan. And we have Marlene. Marlene is quite popular in Africa, right? Marlene is a senior AI developer advocate for Microsoft, focused on Azure AI. Yeah, and we have Patrick Loba. Patrick precisely is like, I call him YouTube God, right? So Patrick is focused on video, yeah, video and like integration. And we have Marissa Smith, yeah, who is also a developer advocate as Tobico Data. Yeah, so why is DevRel essential for AI ML product? Yeah. So first of all is ML product, unlike the regular software engineering like app and product, right, is composed of, there's the model side and the software engineering side, and there's a part for quality data that needs to be attained. So there's a lot of complexity around ML products. I'm not saying from probably maybe if you are trying to prompt like ChatGPT, right? You might not, like, I don't want to say you might not relate. You might just like prompt and get your answer. But there's a lot of complexity in terms of when it comes to, if you don't have like some in-depth knowledge of software engineering, trying to work like with the API, there are some things you need to understand to work with the API, for instance. Yeah. So there's also a part of building trust and credibility with developers. It's also a pipeline for creating feedback loops. Because I'll talk about that later. Feedback loops is like the lifeblood of every product. And there's also a part of building a thriving developer ecosystem and showcasing responsible AI practice. Like, we've heard a lot of things lately on responsible AI, AI ethics, AI governance, and what are like these companies not supposed to get our data. Why are they like getting these people data? Is wrong, is right, and all. Yeah, so one of the things like DevRel professionals are sorting is like making the users understand like the responsible AI practice, right? The like of Logan, like an ex-OpenAI dev advocate, currently as Google AI Studio does this, for instance, a lot. So yeah, this is one of my focus here. So case studies. So the first case study we'll be working on now is driving adoption through targeted AI ML education and content. So how do we do this now? Let's assume we are a developer relations lead, a developer relations manager, right? So how do we do this? So case study 0. So the idea behind this, as much as I started with one, first of all, was I assume this block to be a one-dimensional array, right? In a linear data structure. So the number in an array starts with 1, right? So in form of the sequential form. So that's why I started with case study 0 from data structure. So in this first case study now, it says an AI company, let's name it, you can give it your name, but let's name it in this case, AI Co. So it struggled with onboarding new users who were intimidated by complexity of their API. I talked about complexity, why we need DevRel. Yeah, so this is an example. And it's documentation, right? That's for better developer experience. That's documentation side. The API provided a robust machine learning capabilities, but requires some knowledge of model configuration, data handling, which cause barrier to entry for beginners or developers new to AI, right? So how can we sort this now? How do we overcome this as AI Code DevRel team? Let's assume I'm the DevRel manager here, and we have several developer advocates, technical writers, and other people in the team that I mentioned, that I explained. How do we sort this now? So first of all, this is AI Code beginner-friendly tutorial for API integration. This is what it covers, right? So we start with something like a step-by-step tutorial walkthrough that introduces users to the API, right? To break down complexity for easy understanding. That's what we start with. And the second thing we'll do now is realistic use cases that involved working with this API with reality, like maybe African problems or there's what they call SDG, right? African problems or societal problems, depending on where you find yourself. Maybe if assuming I'm to give an instance from like an African perspective, I can decide to like maybe work on that's the low resource language. Yeah, so I and Flora, we are working on something soon. Let me just say that. So focus on low resource language, right? Yeah, for a conference. So I can work on that as an instance. Number 3 is level-based content. So in every community, there are beginners, there are intermediate, and there are advanced. There are people that they are advanced, right? But they are also under advanced, right? So you write content and build content from this perspective. And the funny thing is, if you've not been a developer before, there's a level of content you can write. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. I know, like, we can go to ChatGPT, get some things and all, and just prepare something. But the truth is, if you've not been maybe a data scientist before, you've not been a machine learning engineer before, you've not been a data engineer before, and you face some of these things, the truth is you won't be able to relate with some certain things, especially in the advanced perspective. I know what I'm saying. Yeah, so I'm talking from experience, and I'm not just saying it. Yeah. So the thing is, you have to be a developer first before. Is even also to the point of when you have technical skills, it also helps you when you come to community management in AI. I'm talking about the AI space from what I know. Because at some point, even from questions and some feedback, you'll be lost. You won't be able to like carry along with something. So being a developer is very essential in this case. So in that way, you can relate to writing a beginner content, intermediate content, and probably advanced. You can partner with maybe a solution engineer or maybe a product engineer to write that. And 4 is video and written content. So, so the summary of like, there's the video content, there's the written content, there's the audio content, speech, and the rest like that. This is like the plan of AI Co, right? As an API company to like approach this. So what's the impact and result of this? Now I said, the educational content makes AI Co complex AI tools more accessible, and adoption metrics showed a significant increase in API usage within just a few months. A practical example now I'm saying from this is what Logan is doing. If you follow Logan. So Logan, like I said, Logan is I'm trying to bring a scenario I feel like a lot of people can relate to. So it was the like developer relations lead for OpenAI. He was the one leading it before he moved to Google AI Studio recently. So there's what they are working on currently, like Google AI Studio. I think it was released like 3 days back, where it was like, okay, our API is accessed, and people were giving feedback that, okay, this is not available yet, and it was like, okay, we'll work on it. Something like that is just like a practical example of this. So you get more usage and adoption where people can build things with your API. So developer felt empowered to start with the API without needing extensive AI knowledge upfront. So a lot of things are abstracted for them, right? Which lower the barrier to entry and increase the product's appeal to broader audience. This is a perfect example of how developer relations is meant to be done rightly. Seeing from this perspective, you notice like it's not completely marketing, because you have to be a developer to understand some of these things, right? Yeah. So my say on this is tailored educational content can explain, that's demystify, right? Complex AI/ML product and make them accessible to a wider audience. By creating content that guides users from basic to advanced level, DevRel can drive adoption and engagement, turning hesitant users into confident, active ones. That they get confident using, like, if you ask people about wanting to use maybe a product now in terms of trying to search now, a lot of people basically go to Google, a lot of people basically go to ChatGPT. Why? You know, some of these things are, and it has been done over time because it's more like a pattern already. Because of, you are now like a confident and active user due to your experience. If assuming when we want to use ChatGPT, for example, for the first time, and you ask question about what is data science, and you get a definition of, which is hallucination, we get the definition of data science for software engineering, and software engineering for DevOps, and DevOps for maybe networking. And it continues like that, maybe for straight 1 month. I bet you they are losing customers, and it's just the truth. They are losing customers, right? So all these are feedback. People tend to complain and be like, oh, why will I get this? Why will I get this? And the developer relations professional notice this. They don't see it as criticism, right? Because the feedback is like the lifeblood of their product. Yeah. So this is the second case study now. Building an engaged open source AI company. In this case, I'll be using MLO. A perfect example for this is Hugging Face. That's the perfect example for this. I think like the DevRel lead, that's the DevRel lead, I think last week it was like, oh, we are on team break and we noticed that the open source AI space slowed down. Yeah, so I'm just saying that a perfect example is like Hugging Face. So which is why I'm using the instance of MLOB. I said, an open source machine learning platform, let's call it MLOB. That's case study 1 now, after 0. Relied heavily on community contributions and feedback for product improvements. However, without a structured community approach, users face challenges and their feedback often went unheard, like the perfect example I gave as regards ChatGPT, for instance, right? People appreciate when they are ahead, right? So the MLOps team recognized the need for a more organized community structure, that's from their DevRel strategy, to capture valuable feedback and encourage collaboration within users. How do we overcome this as the MLOps, like developer relations team, right? So part of the things we do, that let's call it like the community-driven model, is if you are familiar with like maybe contributing to open source here, like can you raise up your hand? Open source contribution is not just code, right? So that's what I'm asking. So there's GitHub Actions. In GitHub Actions and Open Forum, GitHub Actions where like you can ask questions and like some people are using GitHub Action like their Discord. Like it has an extensive platform, like a community platform, right? So Open Forums and GitHub Actions, right? I think for Open Forum, we have the like of Discourse. So also monthly feedback sessions. That's, in this case, the technical community manager. Users propose new features and they report bugs. So when they report bugs, I've been in this situation before. So when they report bugs, the DevRel team notice down and decide whether this should go to the, in what way can this be beneficial from the engineering side, that's to propose new feature, right, with a competing product, because there's competition everywhere. Or you can also give this as a report to the sales team so that they can decide what next would they do. Maybe if there's a SaaS product, like software as a service, right? That's an extensive product of that particular company outside the open source perspective. You can decide to reach out to that team. Yeah. So there's also collaborative documentation where the documentation writer or the technical writer pick maybe a community champion. Community champion are people that they give themselves to the community in terms of trying to contribute, so like Microsoft MVPs, Google Developer Experts, they are all community champion. AWS community builder, they are all community champion. So you try to write a collaborative documentation with them, which encourage more people to want to contribute to open source. So there's also the recognition and award contribution. That's recognition and award. That's like different contribution programs for maybe when they write about using your product, a use case, or maybe for bugs or quality feedback, right? Maybe you give them like, I think the bag I gave to Sharon, for instance, I got it from Deep Checks from a contribution. Deep Checks is like a company that is focused on model validation, right? For the ML side, an Israel company. I got it from Deep Checks. That's an example of recognition and award, right? Etc. Then, what's the impact and result? So he said, the DevRel team, community-driven approach, created a space for developers to engage deeply with MLOps and its product evolution, like the collaborative documentation with community champions, like I said. By engaging the community in a structured way, MLOps saw improvements in product usability, quick bug resolution, and an increase in contribution who were committed to this platform growth. The feedback loop also led to faster iteration and product better, aligned with user needs. And you get a lot of users like using your product here. So this is the impact and result. So this is like my conclusion from this, right? That an engaged community can be a powerful resource for ML contributing to ideas, catching bugs, accelerating products evolution by fostering feedback-rich environment. DevRel team needs to empower users to shape the product, improving it faster than internal teams alone could manage. Yeah, because the thing is, especially for a startup, there are little things you can do, right? So startups, for instance, there are several startups that have like less than 20, we have less than 50 people, for instance. So there are little things you can do as a startup, right, to handle a lot of things. Sometimes when your community champions and users come in to help you like improve your products, your open source projects, right? So That's a plus onto your part. So the last case study now, that's evangelism through real-world use cases in computer vision. So let's call this Vision AI in this case, right? Vision AI is specialized in computer vision solutions, but face challenges in demonstrating real-world value of their product to developers and potential customers. While there was interest in Vision AI's offering, many developers struggle to understand how to apply the technology to specific industry problems, such as quality control in manufacturing or patient monitoring in healthcare, right? So how do we overcome this as Vision AI DevRel team, and I'm the DevRel lead here. This is their technology solution-driven model. So first of all is developing industry-specific case studies like what I mentioned here. That's quality control in manufacturing and patient monitoring in healthcare. So you are developing industry-specific case studies, because when you develop industry-specific use case, that's when different developers will be interested in using your product. There are different industry, right? And different part of computer vision can be applied, maybe from detection and so on, right? They can be applied. So there's also the part of like selecting some top conferences. So in this case, there's CVPR. There is these are top AI conferences, right? There's ICCV, there's ECCV, there is all the CV there. Basically, if you see, is computer vision. Maybe international. I do forget the abbreviation sometimes. Yeah, ECCV, Europe conference, something for computer vision, and there is neural information processing system, something like that, NeurIPS, and there's the likes of ICML. These are top conferences now that you go, you present paper. The likes of there's this man that taught this mathematics for machine learning. His name, Andrew Eng, exactly. So the likes of them, they come to these conferences. So you can publish your papers and like present it as this conference. This is the second strategy. And there's also conducting hands-on workshop on like different like domain in terms of maybe healthcare. In this case now we are saying manufacturing, defect detection, for instance, right? So, and there's also content. This one is storytelling now, content marketing on practical impact. So a lot of people humans generally like to hear success story. So if I come here, for instance, now and I say, I attended DevFest Lagos, though this is a true life story, because I attended DevFest Lagos 6 years ago, for instance, which is the first conference I knew about machine learning. I was into Android development that time. That's why I knew about fire-based machine learning precisely, where I made research about machine learning. That was in 2018, November, I remember. So when I come and be like, okay, this transformed my career and something like that, a story for the conference, and you push it out there on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and maybe from there I get a job and something like that. I tell you that when it's the next year, you see a lot of people coming for DevFest Lagos, even than this, right? Because people like to connect and relate to human story, like human story generally. So from the product's perspective now, you can show across maybe blogs, podcasts actually, or videos, and newsletter. So the impact and results from this model, Vision AI effectively built trust and established credibility within the community. This activity allowed Vision AI to connect with advanced developers, researchers, and industry stakeholders, demonstrating the tangible benefit of their product in real-world cases. The combination of case studies, research papers at conferences, or like submitting in like ARXIV, hands-on workshop, open new business opportunities. So later in this session, there's a part where I talk about tying everything you do as a developer relations professional to business goal. This is a perfect example that led to increased adoption, helping potential users and customers to see how Vision AI solution could directly address their specific industry's needs, right? So I said all this, right? So I said the DevRel team connects complex technology with practical application, making products more accessible and relevant to industry professional and advanced users. So summary of the key learning, right, is lower barriers for entry for users, and it builds trust from real-world impacts and use case among these 3 case studies for developers, and it empowers like a collaborative community for the likes of MLOps and open source community. So the key KPIs for assessing DevRel success in AI, right? So it's not just about going to conference to give talks. There are things you like measure in terms of the conference you give. That's how I was talking about targeted conferences like ICML, New Rips, and so on. So there are different KPIs. If I had an opportunity for an art session, I can do like a breakdown, because I've done it, like a breakdown of how all these are measured, right? So we have engagement and interaction metrics. In this case, how are people feeling alive and responding to my talk, for instance? Are they feeling lost? Are they feeling connected? Are they feeling confused? So assuming maybe I'm giving a product course talk now, I can give a feedback. I can give a QR code to give a feedback, right? That shows, okay, different questions. Are you feeling connected? Are you feeling lost? Are you getting what this product, but in this case, developer relations is about? So that's engagement and interaction matrix. This is a physical example I give. It can be online, right? Some are quality, some are quantity, but you need to focus on the quality. But there's also educational content and training matrix. So a practical example of this is, at DVC, we have a course on MLOps, right? MLOps use case on DVC, continuous machine learning, that's CML, yeah, and DVC Studio, which is a SaaS product. Now, there was a case where we need to like measure like the metrics for this product, right? Why is it increasing? Why is it decreasing? What are we doing differently? What are we meant to do in order to improve so that people can learn? What country are they coming from? So things like this now are educational content and training. It can also be YouTube videos, right? Like pushing out videos on YouTube for people to learn. That's the open source part. Feedback quality and quantity. There's also the adoption and retention matrix. When people use your products, do they come back or just use your product once and just leave your product? So you need to like consider all of this also. There's also the open source metric, right? And there's also like that's the number of contribution, like people trying to like contribute to your project and all, right? There's also the community contribution generally overall. So the tools and techniques for tracking DevRel ROI. So there are several tools and techniques, right? So for the analytics platform, I would say like data analysis is like a crucial skill for every DevRel professional. I'm talking from experience. Because you tend to like measure metrics and all. So if you're in the data analysis perspective already, maybe as an AI ML person, for instance, this is actually an edge for you. So you work with like different platforms, depending on what you want to use. For my case, for instance, now in the company I've worked for, I use Tableau in terms of like checking like the metrics in terms of different months, for maybe YouTube, how it's going up, how it's going down, with comparing it to LinkedIn and why and all. But there are different analytics platforms. We have Google Analytics, Mixpanel, we have Looker, that's for Google. We have Tableau, we have the likes of Microsoft Power BI. So that you can use to measure even Excel and Google Sheets if the data is not much, right? So there's the CRM and there's the community platform, e.g. Discord, GitHub discussion, Discourse, and there's also Slack, yeah? So specialized DevRel tool, like I mentioned mentions.com. So there's Orbit, there's Common Room, and there's mentions.com. I think mentions.com, depending, is expensive, right? I think it's around $3,000, right? But mentions.com, for instance, does a lot of things. They call it a listening tool, yeah. So there's also the survey and feedback form, like I mentioned, getting feedback, Google Forms. These are tools and technique. Aligning DevRel matrix with overall business objective. So you see me mapping this, right? People that have done mapping, don't mind me, I can be here. So DevRel metric to business objective in this case now. You see, map DevRel goals to product growth, like how it's like, and also how it bring like revenue generally, right? So just try to like, in some way, for everything that you do, from writing blog posts, giving talks at conferences and posters, and doing YouTube videos, always make sure everything aligns with the product growth in terms of it can bring revenue to the company. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, if you can't channel all this to like maybe the revenue of the company, the CEO of the company might feel like, what are they doing? We are just spending money. We can't see the ROI and HOR and everything. So you need to like map everything you do, which is why you need to measure it for product goal. So there's also time community engagement for customers retention, right? In terms of, maybe as a technical community manager now, in terms of people, because of the way you interact with them, the way you treat them, sometimes customer support and the rest, and giving them solutions, maybe links and what they need to do and answering their questions. Make sure you retain these people as customers from your perspective. You should put it at the back of your mind. So there's a linking educational effort to product quality, right? So targets either to beginners, intermediate, or advanced. Yeah, so make sure it's focused on the quality of your product. I like brand advocacy and thought leadership in terms of, as a DevRel lead, if you're a thought leader in this space, people love to listen to you, because an instance is, if Andrew Henge now or maybe Sam Altman tweet about something, get over 1,000 likes, and even say, like just share something, his idea, right? So even like the CEO of NVIDIA, for instance, that gave his view on like AI tools and all, and people not learning programming anymore. People tend to listen because they are thought leaders in this space. So if you can achieve this as a DevRel practitioner, people will listen to you from things that you've done over time, right? So you can channel this to your products. So the final takeaways among boys, by focusing on relevant metrics and aligning them with business objective, DevRel team in AI ML can demonstrate clear measurable impact on product success, which is crucial. This approach not only highlights DevRel contribution to community health and user satisfaction, but also shows how it directly supports the organization goals for growth, retention, revenue generation, and marketing positioning. So this is my word now. This is not conclusion, but this is my word. And it's just the fact from my view, right? I said in the AI space, the best product doesn't always win. The one with the strongest developer community does. DevRel is how you build our community, which is fact. So I'll be adding my, okay, yeah. There's something that is not on this slide. You can check like the link I shared on Twitter, right? So this is the statement. I'll be ending with this statement before my question and answer. The statement is, just as data is the lifeblood for business in the 21st century, so quality feedback is the lifeblood for products, especially in this era of AI advancement, right? Why DevRel professional is like the skilled surgeon that operates and bring life to these products and make users stay and evolve over time. Yeah, so that's what I'll be ending my session with. Yeah, so if you scan this slide, if you scan this, you can scan this, right? So when you scan this, it will take you to my slide. It's added to that link. Yeah, so if you have any questions, yeah, let me leave it so you scan it here. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer your question.